seriously, I can barely walk. All I did, excuse me, was go to the gym around the corner from BBC Three Counties Radio. Very exciting. As I walked into the gym, there was a young man, quite big, effing and jeffing, cursing, using indoor language at the tiny woman behind the reception. I thought, yes, I'm home. This is my place. These are my people. Went for a swim. I did 25 lengths. I managed to knock off 25 lengths, but I don't know how big the pool was. So let's say 100 metres. Let's say that. I don't know if that's the case. Don't know what 100 metres looks like, but let's say that. And had a bit of a sauna, bit of a steam, shower, towel dried, and then today I can hardly walk. What? Am I really old and unfit? If you've got any tips to kind of loosening up a bit, don't say yoga. We were talking about yoga this morning. I always thought yoga was supposed to be very calm and spiritual and, I did yoga a few times. It's knackering. I'd rather do a cross-country run than that. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I'm feeling the strain today, okay? So just go easy with me. Lots coming up on the show. I'll give out the contact details in a bit, because I know that there's lots on this you'll want to have your say on, including a BBC investigation reveals how many Thames Valley police officers were prosecuted for speeding. Can we broaden this out a bit? Is there ever an excuse for speeding? I'll tell you my speeding stories a bit later on. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm looking for a little bit of honesty from you as well, please. Other things, a bus driver from Hemel Hempstead says he's absolutely sick of the stench of smelly people on his buses. Hear his story on this programme in the next hour. And what is it like to spend years living on half-built estates in Beds, Herts and Bucks when you're still waiting for important services to arrive? The BBC Three Counties Radio investigates. Oh dear, I've got the station name wrong. That's terrible behaviour. The ways to get in touch, you can go to Facebook, facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send us a text, 81333, starting your text 3CR, or the best way to get in touch, and look, it's the start of the show, all of the phone lines are free. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
More than 1,000 Thames Valley police cars were caught speeding in the last 2 years. Only 53 were prosecuted. Following a Freedom of Information request by the BBC, Thames Valley Police told us in the other 956 cases, the officer driving the car had given a valid reason for speeding. Well, Peter Rogers is the Chief Examiner of the Institute of Advanced Motorists. Morning, Peter.
Good morning to you.
What do you make of these figures?
They're about what I would expect.
Really?
Yeah. If you think about the practicalities of what goes on in policing,
yep.
There are lots of times when police officers will be travelling quicker than the speed limit in order to do their job, but the blue light won't necessarily be on because if they're trying to, for example, follow you to see if you've been speeding, they won't put the blue light on while they're doing that because it sort of destroys the object of doing what they're
So can we
do.
just clear this up once and for all, Peter? Are the police allowed to speed when they haven't got their blue light on?
Yes.
OK, so that's not against the law. OK. No. So they might think I might have a stash of cocaine and guns in the boot of my car. I haven't had that for a long time, but they might think that. And so just to follow me and see where I'm going, if I were going above the speed limit, they would legally be allowed to go above the speed limit?
Absolutely.
OK. But there are some cases, I would imagine, 53 prosecuted, when the police are speeding just because they're in a police car and they feel they can get away with it.
Well, presumably in that set of cases, they weren't able to justify what they were doing because the expectation is that they should be able to. So presumably in that set of cases they weren't able to justify what they were doing, so at that point they're in the same position as you or I would be.
How easy would it be for the police to justify why they're speeding? If they get flashed and they get ticket goes through to the police station, would it be easy for them to say, oh yeah, no, we were following a drug dealer?
It's not that simple.
Right.
if you go off down that path, and like you follow me for a bit, if you go off down that path, they're going to say, oh, well, I was following somebody to see if that car really was that stolen one we'd been talking about earlier. So where is the record of them doing a computer check on the registration number?
Right, so there would be an electronic trail or a paper trail of them investigating that car that they could link up with that speeding ticket.
In the vast majority of cases, there is going to be some form of trail that you can follow through.
What kind of advanced training do police officers do in terms of driving?
Well, there's two levels.
Right.
The guys and girls are driving around doing the ordinary work of an ordinary police station, going to domestics and burglaries and that kind of stuff. Probably driving Vauxhall Astras or Ford Focuses or whatever it might be. Will have done about 3 weeks of full-time driver training.
Right.
The chaps driving the BMWs and the Volvos and the people that you tend to think of as traffic cops will have done another 4 weeks.
Wow, okay. So that's quite intense. So they are very well trained. They are completely in control of the vehicles, and they are used to driving at higher speeds.
Yeah, they've been trained specifically to do those things.
Peter, listen, thank you very much for that. That's Peter Rogers, Chief Examiner of the Institute of Advanced Motorists. This morning, I'd like to hear from you. Do you think that there's... And we can talk about the police. I'd also like to widen this out and talk about your experiences as well. Do you think there's ever an excuse for speeding? You might think there is, depending on what your job is, or what the time of day is, or how well you know the road. Could you give me a call and be honest? When was the last time you were speeding? 08459 455 555. I have had in my lifetime 9 points on my licence for speeding. I got another ticket through the post, which would have taken me to 12 points. This was a few years ago, which would have taken me to 12 points, which would have meant I'd have lost my licence for a time. And I wrote a begging letter to the police, the traffic police, a real begging letter, saying I'm really sorry, I'll never do it again, I need the car because I have to drive all this. And do you know what? It worked. About 6 months later, I got a letter from them saying, oh, we appear to have lost your details about this speeding ticket. Don't do it again. And now I've made kind of resolution is the wrong word because I don't believe in resolutions, but I have stopped speeding in the recent past. You know, on the motorway, 75, 80, we've all done it, haven't we? I've stopped it. I now drive completely within the speed limit, a bit lower sometimes, and it's marvellous. Try it, because it just takes off that little bit of stress. Suddenly everything becomes a bit easier. Is there ever an excuse for speeding? 08459 455 555. Be honest. You've done it, haven't you? There is not one person listening to this show right now who can drive who hasn't sped in their car, who hasn't broken the speed limit. Talking about speeding, the Mail's got a story on this as well. Speeding menace doctors and barristers. Hospital consultants and barristers are among the most dangerous drivers on the road. Both are in a top 10 of professions caught speeding, which is headed by company operations directors, surgeons, and sales directors. Researchers found that speeding motorists are more likely to have big egos, high-powered jobs, and expensive cars. Porsche drivers are most likely to be caught driving too fast. Well, you don't say. The figures were compiled by a website. Those in basic cars and low-paid jobs, students and drivers aged 20 to 24 were least likely to have a speeding conviction. Men in their 40s, here we go, are far more likely to speed than any others. Are you a speeder? Be honest about it. We've all done it, haven't we? If you drive a car, you've broken the speed limit at some point. Some of you by quite a considerable amount. Is there ever an excuse for speeding? There we go. I think I've just stopped a musical crime happening on BBC Three Counties Radio in the next 4 minutes, so bear with me. As you may have heard on the programme yesterday, there are plans to build more than 175,000 homes in Beds, Herts and Bucks over the next 20 years. And yet there are already half-built estates across the area. So what's it like to build a new community from scratch and wait for important services to arrive, such as, I don't know, a train station, a church and a shop? 4 villages are being created as part of Wixham's, just outside Bedford. More than 600 homes have been built and thousands more are on the way. Our reporter, Jessica Cooper, has been speaking to residents who live there.
Hi, I'm Mark O'Leary. I've lived in Wixham's for about 2.5 years now. Ideally we liked it because it was going to be a brand new community, like everyone going to be building it together. We liked the house. We liked what they'd done with the lakes and like the plan to have parks and stuff like that. We thought it'd be a nice place to raise a family eventually.
So you've lived here for 2+ years. How has it been during that time living on a building site in parts, because a lot of it isn't finished yet, and then there's going to be more building work for years to come?
Hasn't been too bad, really. When we moved in, we had issues with, like, dirty windows and stuff like that. But apart from that, it hasn't really been too much of an issue.
The train station was due to be coming to the area in spring 2015. That now looks like it's going to be delayed coming here. How do you feel about that? Was the train station kind of part of your decision to come?
I wouldn't say the train station especially was a part of my decision. I think it was the train station with the rest of the facilities that were kind of like promised that Gallagher's were going to be providing. The fact that it's delayed doesn't really surprise me, because when you're looking at a project that far in advance, it's hard to put down it's going to be done in summer 2015. So hopefully, when it will come, it will get used, and it will certainly be a lot easier than travelling into Bedford and travelling back from Bedford in rush hour.
Hi, I'm Tim Jackson. I've been appointed to Wixham's as a church minister to establish a Christian church for the community. Part of the role I think I have is about helping us to develop a sense of community in the village. That will get easier when we have a central meeting point of some description. We look years down the road to the town centre and sort of proper permanent spiritual space. Until then, we are promised space and access to the village hall for Lakeview. That has just taken way longer than we anticipated coming on stream. We've had a couple of false starts where we thought things were going to happen more quickly than they have. I guess that's part of living on a building site, living in a new development. Things, however well made the plans are, they don't always stick exactly to the anticipated time. We have to be flexible, and that's really at the heart of, I think, everything we do. I'm in part of the village where the building work is pretty much finished, so it feels established now. Having got things like the shops open, so we finally have somewhere to go, which is kind of good. The longer we stay, the better it will be as more and more comes on stream. Again, it's that balance between the developers wanting houses built and also having the usual sort of community facilities that we expect, churches, shops, and all that kind of stuff that we wait for and helps to make a genuine community.
Jessica Cooper reporting there. And later on in the programme, we'll be hearing from residents about why they chose a new build rather than an older home. 08459 455 555. Talking about speeding. 1,000 police in Thames Valley been caught speeding. Only 53 or something like that have been prosecuted. And I'm asking, is it ever acceptable to speed? On the text 81333, start the text 3CR. I'm a London taxi driver but living in Cambridge. I used to have foot down all the time travelling to and from work, but since fuel price went up, I stick to 60 on the motorway. It's cheaper, isn't it? Of course. There's the obvious thing. You cut down from 85 to 65, 70... You're saving a few quid. Can someone do the maths, please, and tell me exactly how much I'd be saving? 08459 455 555. When was the last time you went above the speed limit in your car? I bet it was yesterday. If you were driving yesterday, I bet it was then, wasn't it? Seriously, if you don't love Rumours, the album by Fleetwood Mac, not the concept, then I don't want to know you. You're not a person I want in my life. Trust me, I used to hate it. And then I properly listened to it and knew the stories behind it. It's a really horrible song about Stevie Nicks. Imagine being in a band where your ex-boyfriend writes a really horrible song about you, but it's your biggest hit, so you have to play it again and again and again. How cruel is that? Front page of the newspapers, The Guardian. Clegg joins protests over Shirker's tag. Nick Clegg's got his own radio show. Do you know this? He's got his own radio show on a London-based broadcasting station. And then there's a picture. Fashion Week thinks outside the box. Fashion Week is for idiots. Look at the picture on the front page of The Guardian. A model sports a Craig Green design at London Fashion Week's Man Show, a joint initiative between Top Man and Fashion East. What an idiot! He looks ridiculous. He's basically, someone's got a box, smashed it up and put it on this bloke's head. He looks ridiculous. Fashion student. I'm not being... Right, OK. Fashion students. There is no need for them. Let's just get rid of... Let's just send them... Look at that! Look at that! When you design that... Who is this? Craig Green. Craig Green is now my nemesis. He's my nemesis for making a man walk down the catwalk wearing a broken box on his head. It's ridiculous. Look, I'm so angry about Fashion Week, I can't tell you about the rest of the newspapers. It's Craig Green's fault. Send an email to craig.green at, I don't know, yahoo.co.uk. I don't know. Hopefully there's not a Craig Green who's got that email address. I'll be in terrible, terrible trouble. Let's all send him nice things, shall we? Right.
Call 08459 455 555.
08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning. I'll do the rest of the front pages in a bit, I promise, although I've noticed they're all about this blooming fashion show, so it's going to take me an hour to get through them as I slag off every single thing that's on the front page. But coming up in the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to hear from a Hertfordshire bus driver who's absolutely sick of the smell of, his stinky passengers. You he's talking about. This morning I want to hear from you. Which is the smelliest bus route in Beds, Herts and Bucks? I'm a big fan of buses. I love buses, and it's my preferred mode of transport, OK? But they do stink. Sometimes they stink of, like, Kentucky Fried Chicken and those Dixieland chicken and all those things. Sometimes the people smell. Sometimes they smell of wee-wee. Who would do a wee-wee on a bus? What thinking? What process of thinking does someone go through where they go, yeah, I'm on a bus, I need a wee. I know what, I'll just do it on the bus. What? Why would anyone do that? Can we find the stinkiest bus route in Beds, Herts and Bucks? 08459 455 555. And do you remember, on Friday, we were talking about whether you should leave your babies to cry or not, and we heard from Carly Smith. She runs a mum's on magazine, I think she does, and she's got an 18-month-old called Ada. And Ada was still sleeping in Carly's room, and they were having trouble, and she's going to try and do the controlled crying thing. I gave her some excellent tips. I'm excellent with babies. I gave some excellent tips. I gave excellent tips. There's no denying it. Go and listen on the iPlayer. Well, we'll find out in about 20 minutes or so whether she listened to my excellent tips and followed that advice, or whether she weakened and cracked. Man, come on! I love Elvis. I don't like 50s Elvis. Oh, yeah, 50s Elvis, Heartbreak Hotel. No, boring. Too much reverb on the vocals. 60s Elvis, we all know, was a joke. 68 to 74. That was when he was at his peak. Man, some of those songs, wonderful. Wonderful. Now, I need your help today, dear listener. A very serious question, and only you can help me. What is the smelliest bus route in the Three Counties region? The reason we're discussing this is one bus driver from Hertfordshire has told this show, and this is an exclusive, by the way. No other radio station has got this. Only us. Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. He says, quote, he holds his breath most of his working day, unquote, due to the smells he has to endure while at work. Stinky people. He's talking about you. Well, a man who smells as fresh as a daisy is Justin Dealey. Good morning, Justin.
Yeah, I'm smelling good this morning.
You always, when you walked into the office this morning, Justin, a part of my heart melted.
Absolutely.
You're at a bus stop in Hemel now, aren't you?
Yes, Iain, I have to say, I thought this was a wind-up at first, but clearly it's not a wind-up. I've been talking to a bus driver who wishes to be known as Andrew. Now, he says...
Is that his name?
Well, yes,
okay,
pretty much. Almost. He says... This smell problem has been going on for years, and quite simply, he's had enough. There is only so much a man can take. Now, just to warn you as well, what you're about to hear is fairly graphic. It will be highly offensive to some people as well. Okay. I met Andrew earlier, and I asked him to describe the smell on the buses that he drives, and this is what he said.
Let's have a listen.
Well, the majority of it is urine, bodily fluids. Some of them smell like old carpets.
This is pretty graphic, what you're saying here.
It is, yeah. But obviously we're not supposed to say anything because, we don't want to go around upsetting people. It can be a nightmare.
I mean, you say it's a nightmare. Have you actually said to somebody, excuse me, but you do smell. Can you do something about this?
Yeah, there was a chap that got on at Watford once last year, and it was about June, July time. It was quite a warm day. And when he actually got to me to buy his ticket, the smell hit me like a brick wall, and it literally took my breath away. And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry, sir, but I can't take you because I didn't say that to him straight away. I said to him, I think you're personally offensive." And he said to me, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, You're going to sit on seats where other people are going to be sitting, and I think that it wouldn't be fair to other passengers. I said, I think you should go and get yourself cleaned up, basically. And he got off the bus. I was expecting lots of abuse, but he just turned around and got off the bus.
And you didn't feel bad for doing that? You felt like you were doing him and the customers a favour?
I felt a little bit embarrassed for him. But I did, once I cleared the air, I thought, I'm glad I said it, sort of thing.
Clear the air, nice pun there. So, are you close to quitting your job because it's getting that bad?
No, not at all. It's part of the job. We're dealing with people every day in closed environments. It's the sort of thing you have to put up with.
You say enclosed, can't you open the windows? Well, wouldn't that help?
No, because when you open the windows, they shut them again. People don't like fresh air on buses.
So you tried that, and that clearly hasn't worked?
No, that doesn't work at all.
What's the smelliest route?
I would say that the route between Watford and Aylesbury, probably Hemel to Rickmansworth, because they're quite long routes.
I mean, what you're saying is quite outrageous, but I suppose some would say, fair play to you, because you're coming out and you're actually saying this. Other drivers know about this problem, they're just not talking about it.
Exactly, yeah. Most of them are too frightened to say anything, but I'm afraid I can't hold my tongue. I sort of try and say it how it is, and that's how I am.
OK, so what's your message to anybody who's going to be using a bus today? What's your message to them?
Please stand closer to the soap.
There's no excuse to smell.
No.
OK. Now, clearly you're a man of high standards. I've got my deodorant here. Have a little whiff of this. Is that good?
That's wonderful.
If only your job was like that, day in, day out, with that smell.
Could I take that with me?
And give it to your passengers?
Yes.
OK, I mean, clearly we're having a bit of a laugh about this, but there is a serious side to it as well. Hopefully the situation will improve. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
No problem.
Justin, I can't believe he told that fella he was personally offensive.
I know. I mean,
that poor bloke just then slinks off the bus thinking he's a stinker.
I mean, Andrew's a broken man there. You can just tell, can't you, by that deep pause. Yeah, I said, can we open the windows? People don't like fresh air on buses, and I've never known anybody who smelt like an old carpet, but we may find them this morning, you never know.
Have you ever worked with someone, Justin, or had a friend who stinks?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And did you... it's not me, is it?
I haven't quite had that conversation with you yet, have I?
Because I worked at another radio station, and there was a guy there that had a terrible BO problem. It was awful, and he would leave the room and people would get the air fresheners out. And we all discussed it, we all knew about it, and we delegated someone to have that conversation with him.
It's a tough one. You see, that's an individual problem. I think what Andrew's saying is here, and again, he couldn't really put an age on this. He couldn't say it's young people, it's older people. He was saying
it's everyone.
That absolutely everyone, day in, day out, who gets on these buses, they smell, and there can be no excuse for that. He's saying that soap is cheap, deodorant, go and buy some. There can be no excuse to smell. Why would you want to smell like that?
You've been at the bus stop for a while now. Have you smelt any stinky people?
Well, I'm about to get on the bus at 7:06. Andrew was saying there that the Hemel to Rickmansworth route is particularly bad. Well, I've actually been looking at a bus timetable for the first time in a long time.
Wowzers.
My bus is due to go at 7:06.
Lovely.
Hopefully that will turn up on time. It's going to be quite an embarrassing conversation. Good morning, sir. Good morning, madam. Do you smell? Yes, no. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, we're the BBC. Thank you.
Oh, you get all the glamorous jobs.
Yes,
Justin, we'll speak to you later on. Thank you for that, mate.
Thanks, Ian.
There we go, Justin Dealey. Excellent stuff. So, it does kind of raise two questions, I think. The first one is, can we find the smelliest bus route in the three counties? Maybe you get a bus to work or to school or to the shops, and you kind of dread going on because it's gonna stink of all kinds of horrible things. So 08459 455 555, the stinkiest bus route in the three counties. And I guess the second point here is, have you ever had to tell someone you work with, or a friend, or a colleague, or a family member, that they smell? Because it's not a good conversation to have, I'd imagine. I've never done it. But you're doing it. You're doing them a favour, ultimately, aren't you? 08459 455 555. Two things. The smelliest bus route in the three counties, please. Can we find it? Can we name and shame and see if we can get something done about it? And the second thing is, have you ever had to tell someone that they smell? How did you do it? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can text 81333. Start your text 3CR. Should we have a quick look at the front pages of the rest of the newspapers? We got stuck on the front page of The Guardian. I'm going back to it. I'm picking up The Guardian again. I can't believe it. There's a man wearing a box on his head. London Fashion Week. Craig Green has designed an outfit with a man wearing a box on his head. Seriously, fashion students. I did a Mickey Mouse degree. I did performing arts. But that's more vital than fashion students. Fashion students, The Independent. More pictures from the London Fashion Show. Men's Fashion Week. This time because Ronnie Wood is there with his bride, who is like 40 years younger than he is. They're sat next to Tiny Temper. And then The Independent also says, from Oogie to Aqua Zumba. How to get fit the hard way in 2013. Oogie? There's a new thing. What's Oogie? Oogie. Does anyone know what an Oogie is? Oogie. 08459 455 555. It's a thing, apparently. Oogie. Someone tell me what that nonsense is. The Daily Telegraph. Oh, for goodness sakes. Men's Fashion Week. So they've got an old boy dressed up like... I don't even know how you describe that. Some sort of... It looks like he's from a post-apocalyptic world. What on earth does that man look like? Looks ridiculous. Don't you worry, I'll talk until 9 o'clock. The country gent of a certain age is the height of fashion, provided he combines clashing tweeds with a gilet, body warmer in my day, and a yellow beret. Oh, for goodness sakes. Can I just say, sir, you look ridiculous. You look ridiculous. Full-time mothers are being penalised. That's also on the Telegraph. They won't get tax break to pay for care, but are still losing child benefits, as MPs. And doctors ask judge to order an abortion. Wow. Doctors are applying for a court order to allow them to carry out an abortion on a mentally disabled woman without her consent. The woman, who is not being named for legal reasons, suffers from sickle cell disease, which has already caused her to have a string of strokes. The medical team treating her say they're concerned that allowing her pregnancy to continue any further could endanger her life. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Let's have a look. The Times, it's Ronnie Wood and his young wife at the fashion show. Volunteers for job cuts put army in disarray. Downing Street was accused of playing politics with soldiers' jobs last night, as commanders voiced fears that thousands of army redundancies were leaving critical roles unfilled. The Daily Express, they've got a picture of Princess Diana on the front. They've not done that for a while, have they? How blood pressure drug beats dementia. Oh. The Express, every day, they're curing dementia, or cancer, or dementia. Every day. Yesterday it was a tomato, wasn't it? I think a tomato pill. Today, a simple drug already taken by millions to treat high blood pressure may be the key to beating dementia, including Alzheimer's. The Daily Mail. Gas boss forced out with a golden goodbye. This is great, look. As families face ever-rising bills, Energy Chief is walking away with up to £13 million. Yeah, and I think my last gas bill has paid pretty much most of that bonus. And The Sun. The pop star splits up with another pop star. It's a boy pop star, the one with the tattoos, who split up with a lady pop star, who I think is an American. Does that help at all? Good. Right, it's nice that Gabrielle Aplin, but and there is a but. I'm a little bit bored of people taking old pop songs and slowing them down. It started about 10 years ago when that American gentleman did a version of Mad World by Tears for Fears. He did it for the Donnie Darko film, and it was great, and it was lovely, it was beautiful. And then everyone started doing it. There was a version, there was a woman did a Nirvana song slowed down. It's like, we get the idea. You've taken a song that's a little bit faster, and you've slowed it down a lot, so we can get the real emotion of the song. I get the point. Okay, we're talking about speeding, primarily police speeding. On Facebook, facebook.com/BBC3CR. Trudy Wren says, I thought police officers had to be squeaky clean. I do hope the 53 prosecuted lost their jobs. Unless they're performing their duty, there is never an excuse for speeding. Well, I think maybe losing their jobs is perhaps a little bit extreme. I don't know. When was the last time you speeded? Sped? What is it? Speeded or sped? I don't know. Literally no idea. Phone the pronunciation department. By the way, when I say we've all sped stroke speeded, I don't know what the correct term is. If someone could phone me up, 08459 455 555 and tell me, I'd be grateful. I'm not condoning it. This isn't a, hey everybody, go out there and break the law. But we've all done it. All drivers do it. I cannot believe there is a driver listening to this show who has not sped or speeded.
BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
Catherine Boyle, you missed something out of the headlines, that Twitter has gone aflame and is almost melting down. Do you know why?
Tell me.
David Bowie has posted a brand new song on Twitter.
I know.
Well, I don't get David Bowie.
I don't really either.
Thanks. She feigned excitement, though, didn't she? She was good at feigning excitement. Twitter's gone crazy. Calm down, Twitter. It's only David Bowie. It's no one special. It's not like the Monkees have said they're going to record a new album. Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, just after 7. Tuesday morning. Lots coming up. And as always, your input is greatly appreciated. A BBC investigation has revealed how many Thames Valley police officers were prosecuted for speeding. Do you think there's ever an excuse for speeding? And when did you do it? You've all done it. There will be no one listening to this show who has never gone over the speed limit. As you heard there with Catherine, a bus driver from Hemel Hempstead has told this show he is absolutely sick of the stench of smelly people on his buses. Reporter Justin Dealey is trying to find the smelliest bus route in the three counties. Can you point him in the right direction, please? And which is best, a new or an old house? We'll find out whether first-time buyers have much choice in the matter. Lots of ways to get in touch. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Always good to go on there. And you can have a little argument with the other listeners. Be nice, don't be rude, but you can be feisty. It's good fun. You can text as well if you want, 81333. Start your text 3CR. The best way, and look, all the lines are clear right now, is to give us a call. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
More than 1,000 Thames Valley police cars were caught speeding in the last 2 years, but only 53 were prosecuted. Following a Freedom of Information request by the BBC, Thames Valley Police told us in the other 956 cases, the officer driving the car had given a valid reason for speeding. Well, Luke Campelli is from mid-Bedfordshire. He has had personal experience of bad police driving. Morning, Luke.
Hello there.
Luke, what was your story? Tell me what happened.
What happened was early one morning, a police car was tearing down the road that we live on. We're an isolated cottage, there's no adjoining properties, with a bend about, say, 100 yards to our right. They came round it and embedded themselves in our house, basically.
They did what? They did what?
They embedded the car into our house.
Flippin' heck.
I reckon they probably managed to do about 100, 120 feet between the period of leaving the road,
wow,
demolishing a telegraph pole, going through the orchard, demolishing fruit trees, going to the other side of the orchard, going through a wooden fence, crossing a fairly wide drive, and ending up embedded in the house.
So what part of the house did they hit, Luke?
They hit, it's a cottage, it's a corner.
Right.
Brick built, and the car actually ended up sort of lengthways off the house, if you see what I mean.
And did they do any damage to the house, or had they had the orchard and the fences and the walls?
The damage was horrendous.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it? What was the damage?
Well, I mean, indoors, for example, there were ceilings caving in, which had to be supported with steel outcrows and the like,
dear,
to make it habitable. It happened in early September, and the repair work was complete the week before Christmas.
Oh, Luke.
That will give you some idea of the extent of the damage.
Who do you live there on your own? Have you got family there?
No, me and my wife live
there. How did that make you both feel?
Fortunately, we were away that week.
Right.
So we did hear on the same day.
Right.
And we corresponded with yourselves and other people via the internet and that type of thing.
When you came home and saw it, was it worse than you thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it made their whole drive completely inaccessible because of the machinery that had to be used to repair everything and that type of thing.
And what did the police apologise? Did the officers who were in the crash come and say anything to you?
Came about 3 weeks after we returned.
That's nice of them.
To say that the cause was a truck which had veered into their carriage, so the police car had to avoid hitting the truck and came off the road, basically.
And what were they doing? What were the police doing to be going so fast?
Well, allegedly they were going to an emergency where business premises and alarm had gone off and they were scared that there was some type of break-in. That I'm not certain is the truth, but that's what we were told.
And did the cop...
asked...
Go on, Luke, sorry.
On advice, I asked for a report of the police inquiry that subsequently took place, to which you were entitled, for a fee, obviously.
Of course.
But it was made known to us in no uncertain terms that we wouldn't, of course, see all of the report.
And Luke, did the driver that was in the police car at the time...
There were 2 of them in there.
Right. Did either of those gentlemen come and apologise or send you a letter or phone you up?
No.
No? Incredible.
I'm amazed there was no fatality, to be quite frank.
Well, Luke, listen, thank you very much, Luke Campelli from Mid-Bedfordshire. That's incredible, isn't it? Imagine coming back from holiday and saying, sorry, there's a police car stuck in our house. Well, Ellen Booth is the Senior Campaigns Officer at Break, the road safety charity. Morning, Ellen.
Good morning.
People might say, with these figures of only 1,000 Thames Valley police cars being caught speeding in the last 2 years, only 53 prosecuted, people might think it's one rule for the police and another rule for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really, really important that the police service as a whole does get this right. There are occasions where it may be necessary for a trained police driver to break speed limits if they're responding to a life and death situation where seconds literally count. But there is a balance that always has to be made. And certainly in these instances where a driver was prosecuted, it's certainly the case that that's completely unacceptable. Because as a police officer, you have to set the highest standards for yourself, but certainly as the service overall, or as a service overall, it's vital that we are doing more, or the police are doing more, to make sure that they have the right policies in place to ensure that police drivers aren't breaking speed limits unless they're responding to a life and death situation.
Do you think we all look up to the police, and we don't all, but we kind of should? They should be setting an example. Do you think that the penalties for police speeding should be perhaps tougher?
I think it's certainly really important that the police service has procedures in place to deal with police officers who are breaking the law, because let's remember, they are police officers. They have to set a good example. So certainly there needs to be internal disciplinary procedures in place, as well as the traditional 3 points, etc., and a fine. You do need to make sure that you also have the training and education in place so that police officers understand their responsibility when they're in a police vehicle and when they're responding to emergencies.
956 cases over the 2 years that the police were able to give a valid reason for speeding. Do you think it's maybe too easy for the police to explain why they were speeding?
I think it's you've got to be really, really careful when you come to this, but it does seem, or from Break's perspective, we do believe that more could be done to clarify the kinds of situations where it is okay for police to speed, to make sure that to make sure that police officers are giving really, really good training on how to weigh up the benefits and the negatives of speeding, so they can make a really balanced and good decision. Certainly, I think it is the case that we still have a number of people killed every year in crashes caused by speeding police officers. So what we do need to do is make sure that the balance is right. At the moment, the balance isn't quite right, so we do need to be working with the Association of Police Officers, Chief Police Officers, and others to make sure that we have got that right balance.
Are there any situations, Ellen, when you think it's acceptable for people to speed? Because everybody does it, don't they?
Certainly, if you are a non-police driver, if you're a normal member of the public who's driving, there's never a reason for you to speed, and that needs to be absolutely clear. We know from ample research that there is a very clear relationship between breaking speed limits or even driving too fast for conditions and crashing and causing death and serious injury. So there's a very clear relationship there. So speeding isn't just an antisocial thing to do. It's very much a dangerous, life-threatening thing to do, and that's the message that we do need to be getting across to everybody.
Ellen Booth from Break, thank you very much for your time. 08459 455 555. It makes sense what she says, doesn't it? But you've speeded, sped, I don't know the word, haven't you? If you're a driver, I cannot believe that there are people listening to this show who drive who have not broken the speed limit. We've all done it. We've all done it. The last few weeks, I'm being really careful to go quite significantly below the speed limit, and I'm enjoying that change of pace, actually. I find it quite healthy. But we've all done it on the motorways. That bit of road that you drive on at 5 o'clock in the evening when you know it's going to be completely empty. You go a little bit faster than you meant to, don't you? 08459 455 555. Is there anybody out there who's never driven above the speed limit? And do you think it's acceptable to speed? Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. 08459 455 555. Now, we've been talking about the new housing developments which are springing up across Beds, Herts and Bucks, and there are going to be more. Over the next 20 years, a total of more than 175,000 homes are set to be built in the three counties. But does that mean most first-time buyers have to go for a new property, or is there still the choice to buy an older home? And if you had the choice, which would you go for, old or new? Well, people living on the new development at the Wixhams in Bedfordshire have been giving us their views.
I've always lived in old properties, and I've always had that feeling that old properties are very romantic and they have lots of character. They also have lots of needs of repairs, and they're cold. And it doesn't matter how much heat one puts into them, the structure of the house is such that it leaches out. In this new house, I walked in and I thought, this is a new build house. And then I thought, it's warm. It's neat. It's easy to keep clean. It's wonderful. And I'm a total convert. It's just a delight to be there for me.
You don't have to worry about bathrooms, kitchens, because they're all new. So it's a bit more security, really, and when you move into an old house, anything can go wrong, really.
So you would always choose new over old, would you?
Yeah, at this stage, perhaps if I was to win the lottery and have a lot of money, I'd move into a big old house and do it up, but yeah, new house at the minute, yeah.
Now in the studio with me is Hertfordshire estate agent Tim Gerrard from Gibbs Gillespie. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Ian.
What's the most popular, old or new?
They're both very popular, Ian. What we're finding is...
If you just come a little bit closer, Tim, that's perfect, thank you.
What we're finding is period property has a captive audience. People will go for period because they like the character, they like the feel of it. Also, new build has the advantage of all mod cons, ready to move into 10-year guarantee, whether it's NHBC or Zurich warranty. And importantly, on a new build, it's there to be bought. There's no ongoing chain, and that's part of the problem at the moment. In the conversation we had before we came on air, the property which is least popular tends to be that from the 1970s. So if
that's the house I'm buying. That's where I'm going. I'm going back to the 70s.
You tend to get more space for your money because architecturally they're less popular. They don't look the part. They're not in character. Modern houses built today very much have a kind of Georgian or Victorian feel injected into them when they're built, whereas the 70s neo-colonial style houses don't tend to have that, and therefore, quite simply, you will get a lot more property for your money if you buy a 1970s.
My mum always told me, I don't know if this is still true, that never buy a new build because the house hasn't had time to settle, all the snags haven't been sorted. If you're buying a house that's 30 years old or 100 years old, the owners can say, right, we have a little bit of problem with the plumbing here. You know what the problems are with the house. With a new house, you're not quite so sure.
That was possibly true at the time that your parents were buying a property back in the 1970s, we alluded to before. 1970s was a time of kind of low standards in this country. All you have to look at the films we made in the 70s, the cars we drove, and the clothes we wore, and even the music we listened to. Sorry, Noddy Holder. But
it was a horrible decade for everything.
Decade. The result, of course, was that, yes, the standards of construction during the 70s were low. Everyone knows that. And over the years, it's improved during the 70s, for the 80s, the 90s. And now, if you're buying a brand new house today, you don't expect it to move. It's built to very high specifications. It's very tightly controlled during it's being built. And you will get something in there which has everything you could possibly want for the modern lifestyle. When you buy an older property, if it hasn't been touched for many years, you're going to have to retrofit everything from central heating and wiring and plumbing. Remember, in the Victorian times, they didn't have a bathroom, let alone plumbing or central
heating. Dirty Victorians, they're filthy.
Well, not really. It's just saying that those technologies didn't exist in the house, so everything's been put in post-event. Now, if you go and buy a brand new house today, it is quite simply ready to live in for the modern style. The power points are in the right place. The TV points are in the right place. And it has enough power points. If you think about properties even from a few years ago, people didn't use as many electronic items. There are not enough power points. And you see leads all over the place.
Yes.
Whereas a modern house now is designed for the modern lifestyle.
But they're smaller modern houses, aren't they? Just because they have to, they have to build more and fill up.
Not true. Not
really?
True at all. It is an assumption that modern houses will be smaller, but that's far from the truth. If you look at some houses built, especially in the urban environment, because my office is in Rickmansworth, a lot of the houses in the high street, the period properties of Victorian cottages, they're very, very small in their dimensions, whereas the more modern houses that have been built over the last few years on the periphery of town are simply much larger. Also, at the time that a lot of houses were built during the 20s, when there's the metropolitan development after the First World War, timber was in short supply and the rooms were smaller. Now, modern houses, they don't have those kind of restrictions, so room proportions can be larger. So it's a misconception. Really is, Ian.
How good at you are changing people's minds? Because we've just been through this whole process of trying to find a house, and we've been very specific about what we want. And they say, do you want a new build? Do you want an old build? What kind of period? Do people come in to you and say, Tim, I want an old house? But then you manage to change their mind by showing them...
Very often, Ian.
Really?
The simple fact is that when somebody is looking to buy a property, the first thing they need to do is establish exactly how much they're going to spend. The first thing is to sit down with your financial advisor, with your bank manager, whoever you're going to be using, and establish exactly how much you're going to spend. Having established that, the second thing that somebody will work out is exactly where they want to be. The old adage, location is absolutely primary important. So you've decided where you want to live. You decide how much you've got to spend. And then, I'm afraid, it's need. If, like yourself, you've got a couple of children, as I have as well, you need a certain number of bedrooms. You might be focused on a house. And then those things like age and garden size will be the thing you'll compromise on. So you're going for location, the school's catchment areas, you're going because...
Oh, the school's catchment areas,
yeah, exactly, a nice quiet road, whatever the thing may be. And you will sometimes buy a house, as my previous house, like yours, built in the 1970s, because it gave me great accommodation and great location, albeit not quite the decorative, the kind of architectural style I wanted, but it gave me the right accommodation. Okay, subsequently, a few years down the line, we've moved on since then. I've got a house with a bit more character and a larger garden.
Our new house has got pillars out the front. They look ridiculous. They look, what a 70s thing. They're going straight away. They're the first thing to go. We've been talking this week about the pressures on housing and targets which councils are drawing up to build new properties. It means, doesn't it, inevitably, that new houses are going to be built on green belt land?
I think, ultimately, we will have to look at that situation, yes. When that will happen, no one knows. Part of us, we know in our heart of hearts that there is not enough houses being built to meet, firstly, the growing population, but also the lifestyle demands of people these days. Go back 100 years ago, then families would live in several generations in the same house. Now, as soon as you finish at university, the aspiration is to go and own your own home. We need more property being built. But on the other side of things, by restricting the supply of new houses being built in the green belt, it is keeping prices high, and our perceived wealth as a nation is in the amount of equity we have in our property. So it's a catch-22 situation, Ian. Firstly, yes, we know we need more houses, but also, if we don't build too many, the value of our properties that we own will be higher.
We heard earlier on from people living in Wixham's, and they're still waiting for services. They're still waiting for a train and a church and shops and things like that. That's got to be a problem, isn't it?
And I thought so, Ian, but from my personal experience, the houses that I'm selling, new built houses that I'm selling, they're in established locations. We're just about to launch in February the final phase of development in Croxley Green for Haworth Homes. And those houses are in a superb location with all the services applied. That is why the first 2 phases have sold almost immediately, because they're on the spot, they're in a school catchment area, they're near everything. They're a good purchase. Whereas some of the greenfield sites further away from town centres, further away from services, are poorly supplied until the infrastructure catches up.
Housing market 2013, how's it looking? Is it picking up?
Well, for the first time, actually, Ian, you mentioned the first time in about 6 years, the Land Registry are suggesting price stability and increases during 2013. 2012, the number of transactions in the UK was down by 21% over the previous year to an all-time kind of low. That had a result that prices, therefore, I think, hit the bottom, as it were, as a country. But of course, in our area, it's a bit more optimistic, and prices have been stable or a small increase now for a couple of years. And during 2013, I think there's going to be a little bit more optimism in the market in this area.
Here's something. This is going completely off topic. Not completely, but a little bit. 10 years ago, when I was looking to buy 12 years ago, looking to buy my first flat, okay, and I was with a girl at the time, and we were going around looking at all these flats, and I went to look at one flat that was about 4 miles from where I was living at the time. Completely different street, completely different number. I went in, and there on the table was a letter addressed to me. It had my address, my name. I opened it. It was a cheque for me for quite a bit of money. That's weird, isn't it? Has that ever happened to you before?
No, never.
How insane is it? I've just remembered that. I remember walking into this house and going, that's a letter for me, and the estate agent being a little bit, well, I don't know if you should. I said, I'm taking it, and it was a paycheck.
Really?
Yes. It's odd. We didn't buy that flat. The estate agent thought it was an omen, and we were going to buy it. It was a horrible flat, so we said no. Tim, thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Very nice to see you. It's an absolute pleasure. Tim Gerrard from Gibbs Gillespie. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Give us a call, and we'll speak to you in a second.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555 is the telephone number. We're looking for the smelliest bus route in Beds, Herts and Bucks. It's true that I walked into a house that we were looking to buy, different number, different street. There was a letter addressed to me. How does that happen? It was a paycheck as well. The smelliest bus route in Beds, Herts and Bucks. Ben has emailed him, 3cr@bbc.co.uk. The 32 bus, Buckingham to Milton Keynes, can at times be interesting, as you get a whole range of smells from BO, people breaking wind, bad breath and cheap perfume. Ben, isn't there... I think only gentlemen will get this. There's something quite exciting about the smell of cheap perfume. There's something... erotic. There is! I don't know why. I don't know if it's like remembering, girlfriends when you were younger. I don't know, but there's something exciting about the smell of cheap perfume. There's a line from a song, cheap perfume. That's why I'm saying it in that way. If anyone knows what that song is, 08459 455 555. And on the subject of speeding, 81333, start your text 3CR. George from Wing says, my elderly father drives so slowly, it's tedious. I hate being a passenger with him, as it's scary and embarrassing. And I always feel sorry for the cars behind. But he still managed to get 3 points on his licence for doing 33 in a 30 miles per hour speed limit. Oh no, bless him. Poor old thing. There is a thing about driving too slowly, isn't there? That, I think, can be just as dangerous as driving too fast.
Call 08459 455 555.
08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning. Coming up in the next half an hour, a bus driver from Hemel Hempstead says he's absolutely sick of the stench of the smelly people that ride his bus. Where is the smelliest bus route in the Three Counties? We've sent our reporter Justin Dealey out to try and discover the answer to that question. If you can let us know yourself, 08459 455 555. And MPs are to vote on a controversial government plan to put a 1% cap on annual rises in working age benefits. We'll find out why and what it might mean for you. Facebook.com/BBC3CR 81333. Start your text 3CR or give us a call 08459 455 555. Network Rail has announced this morning train services between Oxford and Bedford are set to be brought back into use as part of the plan. The line between as part of the plan, the line between Bletchley and Oxford will also be reopened. It's part of a £13 billion spend on new projects between 2014 and 2019 in what David Cameron has called the biggest modernisation of the rail network since the Victorian era. Well, Tony Miles is from Modern Railways magazine. Morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Is Cameron right? This is the biggest modernisation of the rail network?
Well, it is a very big one. I think it depends how you play with numbers as to exactly whether it's as big as the Victorian era, but it's certainly a recognition by the government that the railways are going to play an important part going forward, and investments are a good thing at the moment.
Why do you think Network Rail has made this decision?
Well, I think partly the route is there already. This particular one, there's disused track and bits and pieces that need rebuilding, but essentially it's not like they've got to start bulldozing any tract of land or anything like that. So it's reopening a railway that's almost there already, which is great because it's a much cheaper project. They've proved that there's a demand for that the journey already, and not only for passengers, but also it offers a different freight link. And part of the spending plans that have been announced today by Network Rail is to try and get even more freight off the roads and onto the railways.
Is there a demand for it, Tony? Because it must have closed down for a reason.
Well, there were a lot of odd decisions back in the days which they refer to as the beaching cuts, when a lot of lines were closed over the years. There were some very odd ones where you look at it now and there are railways that really ought to be there that aren't, and there were some very odd ones around the country that nobody quite understands why they survived. So sometimes it was, I think the word marginal constituency popped up. So perhaps at the time there wasn't the right support, or it was seen as something that could easily be replaced by buses, and there was quite an enthusiasm many years ago for a lot of rural stuff and sort of regional stuff to go into buses. But then people thought, actually, we prefer travelling by train, and it's not just the faster journey times and it's not a bus, but it is the ability to put freight and things on as well that's very important now. Any
idea how much this stretch between Oxford and Bedford could cost?
Not off the top of my head, no. I haven't got the figures in front of me, but as I say, because most of the land is there, it's not one of those massive projects where they've got to start buying houses off people and bulldozing things. So hopefully it's going to be one that can be done reasonably quickly and reasonably efficiently. It's going to be an interesting link. You better go from Oxford to Cambridge. There's an interesting one for the universities as well.
Exactly. Tony Miles from Modern Railways magazine. Thank you very much.
On FM, AM and online. BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, what's the smelliest bus route in the Three Counties? Andrew, a bus driver in Hemel, came to us begging to put the message out there to you bus users to have a wash before you get on the bus, you stinky people. He told Justin Dealey about what the passengers smelled like. Be warned, this does contain graphic imagery.
Some of them smelt like old carpets, bodily fluids.
This is pretty graphic, what you're saying here.
It is, yeah. But obviously we're not supposed to say anything because, we don't want to go around upsetting people. It can be a nightmare.
I mean, you say it's a nightmare. Have you actually said to somebody, excuse me, but you do smell. Can you do something about this?
Yeah, there was a chap that got on at Watford once last year, and it was about June, July time. It was quite a warm day. And when he actually got to me to buy his ticket, the smell hit me like a brick wall, and it literally took my breath away. And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry, sir, but I can't take it because I didn't say that to him straight away. I said to him, I think you're personally offensive." And he said to me, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you're going to sit on seats where other people are going to be sitting, and I think that it wouldn't be fair to other passengers." I said, I think you should go and get yourself cleaned up, basically.
Well, we've sent Justin Dealey out on perhaps his biggest, most important job this morning. He's been on a bus. Justin, what bus was it and how stinky was it?
Ian, good morning to you. Andrew and his claims. Well, Andrew tipped us off that there were two routes that were particularly bad for smelly people, Hemel to Rickmansworth and Watford to Aylesbury. Well, just after 7 o'clock this morning, I got on the Hemel to Rickmansworth bus. Only a handful of people on that bus, and this is what happened. Kirsty, this bus we're on right now, you get this bus on a regular basis. Do people on this bus smell? And be brutally honest about this.
Well, I think it just generally smells. I don't know if it's the people or the bus itself, but it just it does smell.
Well, how bad does it get? Are you going home every week? Are you dry cleaning your clothes? Does it get that bad?
Well, if I could dry clean my jacket once a week, I would, but the bill would be a bit pricey. But yes, I often think I don't want to pick up the smells of the bus, and when I go to work I think, oh, do people smell bus on me?
And have you actually had to move before because somebody you're sitting next to is stinky?
Generally no, because I'm on the early bus, so I often don't have to sit right next to someone, so...
Yourself a seat. What about yourself, sir? Is this bus route really smelly?
Not in my view, no. I've not noticed anything that would make me move seats, and plus I'm too polite to do that, so I just put up with it if I had to. So,
what about the smelliest route then, as far as you're concerned? If it's not this one, where is a smelly bus route?
I was once based in, a few months ago I was based in Luton, so a lot of those bus routes you'd be stuck on the bus route for over an hour, and obviously people are going to sweat, and then the air gets humid, and it can linger on the bus, and obviously when it gets later in the day it gets far worse.
Okay, and just lastly, the driver we spoke to said that people can't keep up with basic hygiene, and he was saying that's all customers. You're a customer. How does that make you feel?
Well, that's a bit insulting considering what we're using the service. I mean, it's their bus, they should take care of it.
Okay, and yourself, are you offended by those comments?
I personally am a very clean person, so but I can see where he's coming from.
Interesting stuff, Ian. So one saying absolutely no, this bus does not smell. Somebody else saying yes, it does. And what a great line there. When I get to work, do people smell bus on me? What a fantastic line that was.
The gentleman who says that the bus doesn't smell... Was he smelly?
No. A rich aroma was coming off his clothes this morning. But it was first thing in the morning. And somebody mentioned that on the bus there weren't many people. The majority of those people going to work, they're up early. They may have been to the gym. They may have gone home and had a shower. As far as I was concerned, getting on that bus, A, the bus, and B, the people, they didn't smell.
Why do people on buses not like having windows open?
It's a bizarre one, isn't it?
I always get on there and I open the window, and I've had someone stand up and shut the window seconds after I've opened the window. Get some air in, you horrible people.
Yeah, but as Andrew mentioned earlier on, he said people on buses do not like fresh air. Now, he also went on to say that the elderly people do get cold on buses as well. Lots of stereotypes were coming out when we spoke to him, but he said as soon as I open the windows, 2 minutes later, they're shut again. From 9 o'clock onwards in particular, the smell's really, really bad, and there's nowhere for that smell to go if people don't want the windows open.
Can't he get one of those little tree air fresheners that you get in your car, put it over the rear mirror?
I suppose he could do, but if you've got 30, 40 people on a bus at a peak time and they're all smelly, you've got no chance.
Ever taken a wee on a bus, Justin?
No.
People do, don't they? Because I've been on buses, particularly in London, mainly in London, but maybe in Luton as well, and they smell of wee, and you kind of, and Andrew was saying that as well, and you kind of think, at what point in your thinking do you go, I need a wee, I'm on a bus? Hey, I know what, I'll just do it here.
Buses and car parks, the two worst things for that.
Saying that, I very nearly did once do it in a tube train.
You're a bad boy.
I was so desperate, and I was set and I was ready, and I was...
Come on, you can't be that desperate, surely.
I was in pain.
You've been arrested for that, and rightly so.
Justin Dealey, thank you very much indeed. Excellent stuff. If you can call a report about smelly buses, excellent, then Justin certainly made it so. Thank you very much. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Speeding. We're talking about speeding after a BBC investigation has revealed that over 2 years, the Thames Valley Police were busted 1,000 times for speeding. Only 53 convictions were made. The rest of them had good excuses. Yeah. Lisa has commented on the Facebook page. Yes, I'm thankful the police sped to my address at 4:15 this morning because some low-life scumbag has just chucked a rock the size of my hand through my son's bedroom window. So yes, I'm pleased they were here in a timely manner. Did they catch them? No. Open bracket. Oh, look, it looks like a sad face if you turn your head. Speeding to miss Mackie D's breakfast offer by 10 a.m, then no. Someone chucked a rock through your son's bedroom window? That's incredible. Wow. David Prever is standing in for Jonathan Vernon-Smith today, as he has been the last couple of weeks, and been doing an excellent job. I think Jonathan's back next week, but hats off to David Prever for doing an excellent job. He's asking, is speeding always dangerous. And if you want to get in touch with him, you can send him an email, jvsshow@bbc.co.uk. jvsshow@bbc.co.uk. Put your telephone number on there, and who knows, they may give you a call, and you could speak to David Prever yourself. Let's have a look at the front pages of the newspaper. I'm going to avoid the fashion shows and idiots wearing boxes. I mean, look at this. I'm ignoring it. The Guardian. Clegg joins protests over Shirker's tag. Tory rhetoric on welfare criticised. Conservative efforts to single out the undeserving poor were attacked by Nick Clegg yesterday as a high-profile attempt to relaunch the coalition. Instead saw growing fault lines emerge over welfare reform. Ad agency's new striker for lunchtime five-a-side Ronaldo. What's this? 10 years after he scored a memorable hat-trick at Old Trafford to force Man U out of the Champions League. Oh, I'm bored of that already. If the first sentence of the newspaper story isn't grabbing me, I'm out. The Independent. Resignation of top Tory Lord leaves a stain on PM's Ronseal relaunch. They're all a bit boring, the newspapers today. It's a little bit dull. The Express. How blood pressure drug beats dementia. Beta blockers can fight brain disease. And then there's a picture of Princess Diana, who I remember at the time being hot. Doesn't look so hot in that photo. Got quite a big nose. I saw her once. I walked past her in Kensington High Street. I walked past her with a friend, and we both went, oh, there's that... Because it was at the time when there was a Diana impersonator. We went, oh, there's that woman who thinks she looks like Princess Diana. And then went... oh, no, it's really Princess Diana. And so we turned and we followed her. We stalked her. And she got stuck on a traffic... She was on her own. Right? And she was actually quite fit. And she... Sorry, are you allowed to say that? I think that's treason. She was fit, though. And she got stuck on a traffic island. OK, the lights changed. And suddenly, a big crowd of people started appearing around her as everyone realised who she was. And she looked a bit panicked. And there were about 20 people stood around her, kind of looking at her and trying to prod her and stuff. And within seconds, from nowhere, two massive security men just appeared and almost picked her up and walked her out of the way. Very exciting. The Daily Mail. Gas boss forced out with a golden goodbye. The boss of an energy giant that has doubled its prices in just 7 years could pocket a £13 million payoff. Yes, please. And in The Sun, a pop star has split up with another pop star. Isn't that sad? I hate it when that happens. I really do. Breaks my heart. Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. You can give us a call if you want to. 08459 455 555. Now, is it right for benefits to be cut in real terms to help reduce the deficit? Plans to cap the annual rise in benefits to 1% for the next 3 years will be put to a Commons vote later. Ministers argue it's unfair for welfare payments to increase faster than wages. They have historically risen in line with the rate of inflation. The cap would apply to benefits such as maternity allowance, sick pay, maternity pay, as well as some tax credits. Critics say it will result in a real terms cut in support for millions of working people. Well, Terry Hutt is from Royston Pensioners Action Group, and he's organised a protest to Parliament today against the welfare benefits uprating bill. And Terry's on the line now. Morning, Terry.
Morning.
What are your main concerns about the changes the government want to make?
The first thing I want to say is we are going to Parliament today, and we will be there at 12 in the front of the building. That's the first thing. People are so angry about this, it's going to affect lots of people in a different way. Some are going to be lucky, and some are going to be very, very unlucky. The real world out there today is, when we talk about pensions and disabled people, everybody's in the same boat together, indirectly. And when we talk about cuts, how is it going to affect you and me and everybody else?
Well, it's going to cut the deficit, isn't it? That's the plan.
The plan is, they're talking about that plan, but they're not talking about the plan looking after the people. They're falling down on their faces. In one end, they make a new law, and they break it. The promises go out the window, and nobody really knows where they stand.
But we're in such a financial mess in this country at the moment that surely we need to do something to save some money. People's wages aren't going up. Why should benefits?
Right. When we talk about financial mess,
yes,
is it our fault?
It's not our fault, but we're all in it.
It's not our fault. But when we say we're all in it together, we're not all in it together. The people who are demanding the new laws are filthy rich anyway. They don't even know where they're coming from.
Terry,
but
people's
at the same time, we are one of the richest countries in the world.
Terry, people's wages aren't going up, so why should benefits?
again, why shouldn't the benefits stay as they are? People really need their benefits. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting them in the beginning, would they?
But, sorry, I don't know if you heard me, Terry. People's wages aren't going up.
Again, it's sad to say that people's wages are not going up.
Yes.
The businesses are going to the wall.
Yes, so why should benefits go up then? Why should people who aren't working have their benefits increased when people who are working aren't having their wages increased?
Right, I can see where you're coming from there. When we talk about the people at work, they're talking about people at work and the lazy people who are dodgers.
Sorry?
But at the same time, where is the money going?
Well, it's going to pay off it's going up to pay off the deficit, I would imagine.
But at the same time, when we talk about deficit, I'm lost for words half of the time because I've always worked all my life and I've been lucky to have a job. I'm a carpenter and joiner. But at the same time, it would be a disaster for people to be out of work anyway. And how can they live on the wages that they're talking about?
Terry, how many people are you hoping will go on your protest today?
Well, today I'm hoping through the radio stations like yourself, they will get up off their backside and go, because it's going to come into effect in April.
Yeah.
And when they talk about their marriage, what about everybody else's marriage?
At the moment, Terry,
up a lot more people.
Have you spoken to anyone else that's going, Terry? Or is it just you?
There's people all over the country going.
What do you hope to achieve today? What would you like?
We're going there to make our process to be heard through the media. That's the only way we can do it at the moment.
For those
who forward,
go on, carry on.
The way forward is to stick together. We won the last World War, and we intend to win this one too.
Terry, for those who do want to join you, what time are you meeting and whereabouts?
12:30 outside Parliament itself.
Right. Do you really think this is going to, Terry? Do you really think this is going to have any effect on the decision?
Between you and me, if we didn't stand up for ourselves, we wouldn't have any effect, would we?
Terry, listen, thank you very much. We may speak to you later on and find out how it went. That's Terry Hutt there from the Royston Pensioners Action Group. He's organised a protest at Parliament today against the welfare benefits uprating bill. What do you think? 08459 455 555. Well, Stephen Timms is the Shadow Employment Minister. He joins me now. Morning, Stephen.
Morning, Ian.
You're opposed to this cap, aren't you? Why is that?
Yes, we are. This cap is mainly taking money away from families who are in work. So, for example, the Children's Society has worked out that an Army second lieutenant supporting his wife and 3 children will lose £552 a year under these proposals. 300,000 nurses and midwives will lose out, 150,000 primary and nursery school teachers, as well as 42,000 in the armed forces. And we think this is the wrong approach, particularly at a time when, in April, the government is going to give a tax cut to everybody who earns more than £150,000 a year.
What else could be done to reduce the deficit then, Stephen?
Well, the problem the government has is they're projecting now that unemployment is going to go up next year. Their economic policies haven't worked. They haven't delivered what we were told they were going to deliver. Unemployment is set to go up, and that will cost about an extra $6 billion in unemployment benefit over the next 4 years. This cap is intended to claw that money back, about the same amount, from people who receive benefits. We are saying that instead of that, the priority should be to get people back into work. We talked last week about our compulsory jobs guarantee and how we would pay for that, but it does need as well a change of economic policy so that we get some growth into the economy, some jobs being created, and that way the unemployment bill can be brought down rather than in the way the government is trying to do with this legislation today.
The Coalition argues that benefits should not be rising at a faster rate than wages. And there are a lot of people that would agree with that, aren't there?
But the bill is largely taking money away from people who are working. 60% of the money, because it's tax credits that are being cut, 60% of the money is coming from people who are in employment, and 68% of the households affected have got people, have got somebody in work. So this isn't just about people who are out of work, it's about people who are in work. And, as I say, primary school teachers, midwives, nurses, those are the kinds of people who are going to be hardest hit by this, and we think it's a very unfair approach to be taking.
Stephen Timms, Shadow Employment Minister, thank you very much for your time. And what do you think? 08459 455 555. Do you think that this makes sense, that benefits, the increase in benefits should be capped? And this will mean maternity allowance, sick pay, maternity pay, some tax credits. The cap would apply to those and many more. What do you think? Is it a good idea? There's a huge deficit, isn't there? We hear about it all the time. It's got to be clawed back somehow. Is this not the best way to do it? Or is this the government attacking the most vulnerable again and hanging them out to dry? 08459 455 555. What do you think? Do you think this is a fantastic idea that is essential and is exactly the kind of forward thinking that we need? Listen, I bet you if you're working, you've not had a pay rise for the last couple of years, have you? If anything, you might be getting paid slightly less, working less hours. I know loads of companies have come up with deals with the unions and with their workers where they kind of split their shifts a bit and they all work a bit less to ensure they keep their jobs. Or maybe you're dependent on the income you get from these benefits. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. You can send us a text as well, 81333, starting your text 3CR. Or you can go to the Facebook page. And you can go on there and have a little Barney with some of the other people that are there. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Don't be rude. Don't be nasty on there, but you can have arguments. I like going on there. And I pop on there during the show and after the show and read everything that you've written. And it's nice when you get feisty with each other and when you disagree with each other. Just don't use indoor language. That's my only rule, I think. Morning, dear listener. Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's just got 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, the first full week of January. Who'd have thunk it? 2013. Wow, we're living in the future. Do you remember when 1999 sounded a long way away? Like, in the future-wise? Well, now it's a long way away in the back-wise. Don't know what that means. Lots coming up between now and 9 o'clock, including... a BBC investigation has revealed how many Thames Valley police officers were prosecuted for speeding. I'll be speaking to Henry Parsons, Chief Inspector of the Joins Roads Policing Unit, to find out whether he thinks it's acceptable. A bus driver from Hemel Hempstead has told this programme he's absolutely sick of the stench of smelly people on his buses. Where is the smelliest route in the three counties? Just why are staff at Whipsnade Zoo spending the day counting all their animals? Reporter Justin Dealey will be there to find out. If you want to get in touch, you can facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send us a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or you can give us a phone call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Couple of lines free, so now is an excellent time as we hunt down the smelliest bus route in the three counties. 08459 455 555. And we'll do it. I'm fascinated by this zoo doing a stock take. It's the time of year when all the zoos do their stock takes. Why? What, you know how many lions you've got. You know if a lion had gone or had arrived. But they count things like stick insects and stuff like that. Who cares how many stick insects you've got? Really? We'll find out more later on. More than 1,000 Thames Valley police cars were caught speeding in the last 2 years, but only 53 were prosecuted. Following a Freedom of Information request by the BBC, Thames Valley Police told us in the other 956 cases, the officer driving the car had given a valid reason for speeding. Earlier on, I spoke to Ellen Booth, Senior Campaigns Officer at Brake, the road safety charity.
From Brake's perspective, we do believe that more could be done to clarify the kinds of situations where it is okay for police to speed, to make sure that police officers are giving really, really good training on how to weigh up the benefits and the negatives of speeding so they can make a really balanced and good decision. Certainly, I think, it is the case that we still have a number of people killed every year in crashes caused by speeding police officers. So what we do need to do is make sure that the balance is right. At the moment, the balance isn't quite right, so we do need to be working with the Association of Police Officers, Chief Police Officers, and others to make sure that we have got that right balance.
Henry Parsons is the Chief Inspector of Joint Roads Policing Unit at Thames Valley Police. Morning, Henry.
Good morning.
Henry, what does the law say at the moment? When is a police car allowed to speed?
It's a really wide definition, and in short, it's when the vehicle is being used for policing purposes, albeit we apply a much tighter restriction on that in Thames Valley Police.
So, obviously, it can do it when it's got the lights flashing, but it's allowed to speed when the lights aren't flashing as well?
Yes, it is. We prioritise our calls, or grade them in Thames Valley Police, and the call that officers are entitled to not only speed but break other road traffic regulations if it's necessary is for immediate grade calls, and that could be a crime in progress or where someone needs our help immediately, or perhaps they're in danger or likely to be hurt if we don't go quickly.
53 accounts of Thames Valley Police speeding illegally in the last 2 years. Why were they doing that?
I can't answer for those occasions, but what I can do is give some context perhaps to the figures where we've issued notices of intended prosecution to the other 1,000 officers who've activated speed cameras, if that's okay.
Well, we could do that in a second. 53 breaking the law, though, is unacceptable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get that figure down to 0. It should be 0.
And what happens to those 53 drivers? What's the internal punishment system?
What we do is we identify the drivers who basically don't follow their training and our procedures. We'll then assess them, whether that's their driving being assessed, and we also conduct psychometric assessment on them. We then identify what interventions needed, whether that's retraining or restrictions on their driving, and that could be a total ban on their driving police vehicles. And then when people are back on the road, we monitor them, and we've got systems to do that.
And I'm assuming they get points on their licence?
That's separate to the internal process, but the courts will apply whatever punishment they see fit.
OK, so they would get points on their licence like anybody else would?
Yeah, absolutely. They're treated at least to the same standard, if not to a higher standard for their driving.
And they pay their own fines as well, do they, personally?
Yes, they do. It's not paid by the police. If they act outside our policies and procedures, they're liable themselves.
OK, so your aim is to get that down to 0. How long do you think that will take?
I can't quantify that, unfortunately.
Surely it can happen now, can't it? The police should not be speeding illegally.
You're right, the police should not be speeding illegally.
I feel like I'm telling off a policeman. It's very exciting. Thank you, Henry, for being so patient. The 956 cases where it seems the police got away with breaking the law, what was going on there?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that they didn't get away with breaking the law. What happened in these cases is speed cameras have been activated by police officers in marked police cars, and at that precise moment the flash has gone off on the camera, has not clearly captured the blue light. So in those cases we've got a process to check what's going on. We'll ask the officers what's going on, we'll ask their supervisors what's happened, we'll then check what we've been told against our command and control records, and then if needs be we'll check our data or black box recorders as well. In most of those instances, officers have been speeding, and it's been the right thing to do because people have needed our help, and officers have driven through speed cameras quite safely, but above the speed limit in order to help people quickly.
You say most of those cases?
Yeah, because as you've already mentioned, we've prosecuted 50 officers who haven't met that strict criteria.
There are some cynical people, Henry, who might say, well, hang on a second, you know, jobs for the boys, everybody helping each other here. The police officers, well, look, sorry, Sarge, the reason that camera flashed off is I was chasing a drug dealer, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How thorough is the check made on every single person, a police officer, who's flashed?
It is thorough. Ultimately, if the example you've given of someone chasing a drug dealer, there'd be a radio record of the officer doing that.
Right.
That would be shown on the data recorder in the car. So we're very, very strict in verifying these circumstances.
What's next for you, Henry? What do you do? What are you going to say to the boys and the girls to get them to stop speeding when they don't need to?
Basically, what they do, they get a tiered sort of process of intervention, and the retraining and assessment basically should prevent them speeding again, or at least clearly identify why they shouldn't.
Henry, listen, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Henry Parsons, Chief Inspector of Joint Roads Policing Unit at Thames Valley Police. No one has called up yet and come on the air to say, do you know, Ian, yeah, I speed. Because you all do it. Also, like on the converse, no one has called up to say, actually, Ian, I've never speeded. I've never done it. Why would I need to? I think that all drivers have at some point in their driving career broken the speed limit. For whatever reason, you're a bit late for that meeting. That car is really annoying you, sticking to 70 miles an hour in the middle lane. I'm going to show it. My wife's pregnant. She's having a baby. She's not, sorry, I'm just saying that as an example of when you've probably done it. You've all done it. Just go into the shop, so it's only a 30. It's 30, I can do 35 here. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, I know these roads are completely empty. 08459 455 555. Have you done it? Have you broken the speed limit? I think you probably have. I think you all have. If you're driving now, you've probably done it this morning. You may not realise, but you've probably done it this morning. And now loads of areas, have you noticed? Loads of places are now 20 miles an hour. Loads of places that used to be 30 are 20 now. Have you spotted that? 20's... If you've driven at 20 is very, very slow. It's really slow. Does it need to be 20? 08459 455 555. When have you broken the speed limits? Or are you one of these people that has never broken the speed limit and thinks there's no need for it whatsoever? 08459 455 555. We're talking about the vote today on whether to cap various benefits. Elizabeth has emailed 3cr@bbc.co.uk. The government are in receipt of the largest, most expensive benefits paid out. Subsidised meals, gold-plated pensions, expenses. Does Margaret Moran receive a government pension? I bet she does. Means test the single occupancy discount on council tax. There are people out there who do not need that as well. They could save some more money there. From Elizabeth. And Andy in Milton Keynes has texted 81333. Starting his text 3CR. I haven't had a pay rise at work in years. In fact, we all now have to work 6 weeks of the year for nothing just to keep our jobs. Times are bad, very bad indeed. Yes, I've heard stories of this. It doesn't shock me, Andy, of people kind of cutting their shifts, cutting their pay, working longer, just to ensure that they keep their jobs. 08459 455 555. What do you think about this? These benefits? There is the argument that we're in such a huge financial mess that anywhere we can save money has got to be a good thing, hasn't it? It's got to be something that we pursue to try and rein this deficit in. We're stuffed, aren't we? We're all stuffed. There's no hope. I don't want to fall out with you, but you're an idiot.
Here I am, sitting in a tin can.
Sorry?
Far above the world. How can you not be a fan?
Go on, give us a bit more. Go on,
That's the best I can do.
Come on, I've got the echo on there.
All right. Here I am, sitting in a tin can. I am tone deaf.
It's David Bowie on the internet, www.davidbowie.net.
How can you not be a fan?
He's rubbish.
The Thin White Duke.
Oh, for goodness sake. I know what, let's do a load of cocaine in the 80s and write some really boring songs. OK, David, yeah, nice one.
He's the only man ever to have written the words Marks and Sparks into a lyric.
And there's
a
reason.
Name that song for 5 points?
Oh, Come is on. It Life on Mars?
No. Wrote it for someone else. It's a good pub quiz question, this one.
Oh. But the thing is...
All the young dudes mock the Hoople.
Mock the Hoople. Yeah. I've got the album where he's wearing a dress.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's not. It's rubbish. His only good songs are Changes and Dancing in the Street.
Come on.
That's a lot of fun.
Let's Dance is a great tune.
Let's Dance is awful.
Let's argue
Put on your blue shoes and dance the blues.
Yeah, but you only like made-up bands, don't you? Like made-up TV bands.
I do like made-up. And of course, well, there you go. You've just done the connection. Why did David Bowie have to change his name?
Oh, go on.
Well, his name was David Jones, and
That's
he had
right,
to change it
because of David Jones.
Of the Monkees.
It all goes round in a circle.
It all links up. There's a new single out. The internet is virtually melting because of it. You're going to play a bit later on.
We'll play a bit. We're allowed 1 minute 18 seconds.
Wowzers!
Yeah,
cool.
It's good, isn't it?
What else is? I'm assuming that's not going to be the big phone in.
I could do 3 hours on Bowie. It's Bow as in no, not Bow as in now. There is a page on the BBC website about how to pronounce his name.
Really?
Yeah, you ever worried? Yeah.
I always go Bowie because Zoe Bowie.
That's right.
Yes. Who changed his name to Duncan Jones or James or Smith,
something like that.
I don't know. Anyway, yes.
Speeding this morning, as you've been discussing, it's an interesting one. Why is speeding always dangerous? Is the question we're going to ask. You're talking about this because of the Thames Valley officers, of course, who've been caught speeding in the last 2 years. But as you've said, we all do it. Why do we think it's okay to break the law every single day? It's one of those laws that we think, well, it's the law, but it's not really the law.
It's not proper law.
It's not a proper law. What's that all about, that we take that law, that most important law that's there because we kill people if we drive too fast, and make up our own rules that affect us? Is speeding always dangerous? After 9 on 08459 455 555.
You've got the number down, Pat. David Privet, lovely to see you. See you later on. If you want to get in touch... it's
sitting in a tin can.
Thank you very much. Go and sit in your tin can, you weird man with terrible music taste. If you want to get in touch with David, you can send him a little email. jvsshow@bbc.co.uk. jvsshow@bbc.co.uk. Just kind of say what you want to talk about, include your phone number, and one of the team will be in touch.
On FM, AM and online. BBC Three Counties Radio.
All this week, we're looking at the state of housing in Beds, Herts and Bucks as councils draw up plans for how many houses should be built across the patch. We've been examining whether this automatically means small homes on packed housing developments. Well, on the line now is John Stewart, Director of Economic Affairs at the Home Builders Federation. It represents companies which build and develop new homes. Morning, John.
Morning, Ian.
What are the pressures on your members in the current economic climate?
Well, I suppose the main pressure is on the mortgage front. On the demand side, it's very difficult for many people to get access to a mortgage, particularly for first-time buyers who have a relatively small deposit. And if home builders can't sell the homes they build, well, they won't tend to build them. But there are pressures on land and planning, but I guess they're not quite so acute right at the moment.
Is it true that new build estates usually have smaller rooms and are built closer together?
Probably... if we compare, say, with the 1930s, when land was relatively freely available. But I think it's a complicated picture. It's partly policy-driven. It's partly on the demand side. But at the end of the day, the ultimate discipline on house builders is people who buy new homes. If they were to build them at densities which people just wouldn't accept, or if the rooms were just too small, people won't buy them, and house builders won't make any money. So there's always that discipline on them.
We've reported that many newly built estates across Beds, Herts and Bucks aren't complete, and many of those which have been built haven't been sold. Why do you think that is, John?
I think I dispute many. There aren't that many schemes around which are, if you like, half completed that aren't carrying on. I mean, obviously, if house builders are halfway through a site, well, then it's partly completed. But
they're not getting all the facilities that perhaps they were promised, like shops and churches and things like that.
Well, those will often come along later on in a scheme. If you're talking about a big scheme, obviously a small scheme, that wouldn't be relevant. But if there were shops planned on a very large scheme, they will come along at some point, and that will have been agreed with the local authority when that will happen.
Looking ahead, what are the main issues which are going to be affecting the building industry this year, do you think?
This year, well, the mortgage situation remains the dominant influence, and if we see some creeping improvement in the mortgage situation, which I think is happening, rates have certainly come down, and we hope there'll be more available mortgages. That will be a key influence. If the house builders can sell more because there are more mortgages around, then they can build more. But at some point, and I don't think it'll be this year, but over the next few years, the planning system, which is where you introduced this story, will become an issue.
John Stewart, Director of Economic Affairs at the Home Builders Federation, thank you very much. We're joined now by Tim Skelton, who was in charge of designing and building Milton Keynes in the 70s, 80s and 90s. Morning, Tim.
Good morning, Ian.
What was it like to help build a city like Milton Keynes? That must have been very exciting.
Oh, it was fantastic, although I must correct you, I wasn't responsible for it. I was just a small part of the organisation.
Well, don't play your part down, but yes, you're part of the team. How did it work?
Well, basically, Milton Keynes Development Corporation was a government body, and it had the ability to buy up all the land and then develop housing briefs, commercial briefs, and sell the land on to developers to then build houses themselves. And we had the ability for a period until the Margaret Thatcher came in, to build rental houses as well.
Were there problems similar to the problems we're having now, or did you kind of have free rein to do what you wanted?
To a certain extent, yes. We had to get a sort of planning permission in broad terms from the government, but once we had that, we could develop land, and critically, because we owned the land, we could decide how many, what housing densities we wanted. So if we wanted small schemes of houses with large gardens, we could do that as long as we got an economic return on the land.
Did you realise at the time how significant your job was?
Yes, I think particularly in the 70s, there was very much a sort of pioneering spirit. I mean, Milton Keynes was a child of the 60s when there were lots of new towns, new universities, and everything was incredibly adventurous. So it was a very exciting period.
What do you think about new villages like Wixham's, the Wixham's popping up everywhere?
I think they have their place. The difficulty I find is that the housing densities are so much higher than certainly what we were doing in Milton Keynes in the 70s and early 80s. As John said, that is a combination of all sorts of things, including government policy. But we've had that in Milton Keynes over the years, and more recent developments have been to a far higher density than what was done previously.
There's always talk about new buildings being and changes to Milton Keynes. What is the future like for Milton Keynes, Tim?
I think the future is very positive. We've had a recent announcement that the council is going to be taking on the remaining undeveloped land within the city, so it will be able to control housing land and development going forward, which is, I think, very positive for Milton Keynes.
Tim Skelton, thank you very much indeed.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is BBC Three Counties Radio.
MPs are voting today on whether to cap benefits. Jason is in Hitchin. Morning, Jason.
Good morning, Ian.
What do you make of this?
I think the government's focus is a little bit misguided, or very misguided in some instances. And I think we should be looking, if the MPs want us to make these massive savings and cuts, perhaps they should be leading by example rather than dictating.
Are you on benefits, Jason?
Yes, we receive benefits.
Can I ask which ones?
We relieve tax credits and housing benefits.
If they were capped, so in essence they wouldn't be growing in line with inflation over the next few years, how would that affect you?
We'd be susceptible to price rises the same as everybody else. It's just that the money that we work for wouldn't go as far as it does today. I think when you've got MPs claiming expenses for second homes when they're living within perfectly commutable distances, and claiming expenses for staff and services that they could perhaps do themselves or find more economic ways, perhaps sharing staff between MPs and things like this, and their travel allowances and what have you. I think they ought to start looking at where they could make more savings rather than keep telling...
Jason, there are people who are saying, though, look, we are in such a mess in this country with this huge deficit. We've got to do something to cut it. They should be looking everywhere, shouldn't they, including benefits?
No, I agree with you. They should be looking to benefits, but I think they should be leading by example. You've got Whitehall, for example, that is a massive, massive, massive drain that is part of the reason that deficit is so large. We've got the huge bill to Europe. I'm not going to go into the Europe debate, but £53 million a day.
There we go. Well, you've just gone into it, Jason. We'll move on. Thank you very much, Jason Hitchin. Also talking, we're covering all the topics today. Smelly buses. I know. There's a little argument on Facebook has been brewing. Trudy, as a bus driver myself, the worst kind of passenger are smelly ones, followed closely by drunk ones. Wow. Trudy puts the stinky ones above the boozed up ones. If I know the person at the bus stop is more than a little ripe, I can and have driven past. How do you know? Well, it's not like they're in a comic and you can see wavy lines coming off them indicating that they smell. Not only is it bath making for myself, but I must consider other passengers. When you can buy bars of soap for 10p, there's no reason for smelling bad. You also know they have acrid morning breath for the whole day. Well, Darren has then replied to Trudy on Facebook. Going past bus stops with people waiting would get you sacked if you got reported. And I worked for First and Stagecoach, but some old people don't help themselves or wash. Well, now you see, you say that I've got a nemesis bus driver who, when he sees me, he drives past me. right? I've complained loads of times. He ain't got the sack. He's still driving that bus. Sometimes he doesn't recognise me, because if I can see him, because he's bald, and I can see his bald, shiny, evil head, right, from a distance. So I'll put my hood up, right, so he doesn't know, and slouch a bit, so he doesn't know it's me. And then I stop the bus. Then when I get on the bus, I kind of unveil myself. It's like, you stopped for me. Thank you. Horrible man. So I don't think... When you complain about bus drivers, as I have done on many occasions, don't get me started on bus drivers, it goes to an internal, secret investigation. So the company will... The company claim they will reprimand the person, investigate. They won't tell you what the results of their investigation are. They'll never reveal the results, which is very frustrating, because you know that the bloke you're speaking to on the complaints line is probably best mates with that idiot bus driver that you've been moaning about. So I go, oh, Steve, there's some idiot called in and complained about you. Nice work. Keep it up. You know nothing's being done. Lisa Hunter on Facebook says, my son has to evacuate the bus because of Urine Man. If you're going to pick a name as a superhero, that's the worst one. His smell is still on the bus a mile after he's got off. Lisa, who on earth is this Urine Man? Well, someone who may know is Catherine Boyle.
Meanwhile, last night saw another award for the magnificent Messi. Messi took the honour ahead of Barcelona teammates Andres Iniesta and Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo.
How can you take him seriously? His name's Messi. You keep saying it. How can you take him seriously?
It's not Messi with a Y, he's Italian.
Is Messi on... Is Messi on the pitch? Is he Messi? Is he on the... Messi's on... Messi on the pitch. It's Messi on the pitch. How can you take him seriously, Catherine? Sorry.
Lionel Messi is very good anyway, regardless of the name. That's your latest news and sport. More from me at 9.
Call 08459 455 555.
08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sorry, that was unnecessary. That came from somewhere. Coming up in the next half an hour of the show, you may have seen a story that's in most of your national newspapers today. It's being reported that Hertfordshire fire officers sent out 3 fire engines to rescue a squirrel. According to one of the papers, it cost £6,000. It's just a squirrel. We'll find out why and how they feel about all the press attention they're getting, and just why is animal themed the next 30 minutes. Why are staff at Whipsnade Zoo spending the day counting all their animals? Reporter Justin Dealey will be there to find out. Now, this squirrel, a Hertfordshire squirrel, is in all the newspapers this morning, including the front page of The Sun. The headline reads, "Nuts!" and tells the tale of the squirrel that had to be rescued by 2 fire engines and several firefighters in Watford. It came after worried locals reported that the animal was stuck in a pond and they tried to rescue it themselves. Iain Parkhouse is the area commander for Hertfordshire Fire and Rescue. Morning, Iain.
Morning, Ian.
What on earth are you doing?
The media that's been reported recently in local papers doesn't give a true reflection of the incident.
Give us the true reflection, Ian.
Well, we received a call on Sunday indicating that an animal was stuck on the island in the middle of the pond in Watford High Street, and that persons were trying to rescue the animal, members of the public that being, from the island. Now, we sent the appropriate response to that for a life risk because we believed members of the public were trying to, as I said, enter the water.
7 firemen, 3 fire engines.
We sent 2 local fire engines and 1 water incident team along to the incident.
How deep is that water?
It's approximately 3 foot deep in the deepest part, but it has got an amount of debris on the bottom of the pond as well.
Because I can see there's a picture in The Sun of a fella, and it's just covering his feet. He stood in it, and it's just covering his feet.
Yeah, that was obviously on the edges where it's lowest, the water. Now, the problem we had when we attended in consultation with our police colleagues, there were a number of members of the public who were intoxicated, and obviously there was concern that they were going to enter the pond to try and rescue the squirrel. Now, what we didn't want to happen is to be subsequently called back to that incident to a member of the public in trouble in the water.
Should it really have been a job for the fire service? It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it?
Well, the responsibility for animal rescue actually lies with the RSPCA. Now, the normal protocol is that they would attend and then request resources to rescue an animal. Now, we've got the necessary equipment, skills and resources that we can attend and actually assist the RSPCA in rescuing both small and large animals.
£6,000 it's cost.
That's a bit exaggerated, I have to say. You know, all of the firefighters that attended were on duty, so their salaries were being paid at that time.
Okay, so how much did it cost?
Well, the only additional cost for attending an incident would have been any fuel costs for the vehicles actually attending the incident.
But supposing they'd been there, rescuing a squirrel...
Yes.
And like something proper had happened, like, I don't know, a fire.
Yeah, we would always take that into consideration, Ian. You know, an animal rescue would... obviously come second to any life risk or property fire or road traffic accident involving members of the public that we would need to attend.
So what should I do if I see some drunk idiot, trying to rescue, like, a vole that's trapped up a tree? Should I call you because the drunk man might hurt himself?
Yeah,
or
we have a number of incidents over the year where members of the public attempting to rescue animals, specifically from areas of water, get themselves into trouble. Now, we would encourage anyone, if they see an animal in distress, be it a domestic animal or a wild animal, to contact the RSPCA for advice on how to deal with the incident.
You've got all these lads here, right, and they're all big, proper fire lads. I'm a big fan of the fire brigade. And they've got their helmets, their suits, their gloves, they've got all this equipment. Did they not just turn up and go, oh, for goodness sakes, really? Come on.
I understand your point, Ian, but there is always that inherent risk that a member of the public is going to enter the watercourse or enter the pond and get themselves into trouble. Now, you know, we're about prevention and protection from members of the public, so we need to make sure that we took the risk away and we remove that possibility.
You're in the Sun, the Mail, the Telegraph, the Mirror. You're on the radio. You're on the telly. What does the fire service think of all this attention that you're getting?
Unfortunately, it has not been reported properly in the media. You know, when you actually give the details of the incident, it becomes the rationale behind us attending and carrying out the tasks we actually attend.
It doesn't become that. It still sounds ridiculous, to be honest, Ian.
We have got a responsibility, you know, to save life, as I've already indicated, but we've also got a responsibility to provide humanitarian services.
It's a squirrel!
It is.
It's a blooming squirrel. They're a nuisance. They're like rats. Would you save a rat?
I understand what you're saying, but, you know, there's a lot of animal lovers out there, and for us to attend that incident and then walk away and do nothing...
Oh, now, Ian, now you are being silly. Come on, it's just a squirrel. They're vermin. Would you, if it was a rat, would you have saved a rat?
Like I said, if there was a member of the public attempting to rescue it, we've got a responsibility to make sure that that member of the public doesn't enter the watercourse, and so we prevented that by encouraging the squirrel to leave the pond.
And how did you get the squirrel out?
One firefighter in appropriate PPE entered the pond and encouraged the squirrel to leave, which it did, climbed up a ladder and out of the pond.
Do you know that what you've just said sounds ridiculous?
Ian, what I'm saying is, you know...
But what you've just said is like a fireman in the appropriate equipment got into a pond that goes up to his feet and encouraged the squirrel to leave. You know that sounds ridiculous. Come on.
As I said, Ian, the water is up to 3 foot deep in places. It's got sludge on the bottom. There's debris in the pond. With us leaving the squirrel there and doing nothing, there was always the inherent risk that a member of the public was going to enter the pond and get into difficulties themselves, which we wanted to prevent.
Thank you very much for coming on. Ian Parkhouse is the area commander for Hertfordshire Fire and Rescue. Wowzers. There's nothing I can say to that, is there, really, at all? He said it all himself. Hey, it's tally time at Whipsnade Zoo. Yeah, they're going to count all the animals. In about an hour's time, zoo managers start counting their residents for their annual stock take, which is not easy when there's nearly 3,000 animals to consider. There might be more, there might be less. They just don't know. Well, we've sent down our animal counting correspondent, Justin Dealey, to take part in the count. Justin, where exactly are you and what's happening?
Ian, good morning. How exciting. I'm live at Whipsnade Zoo. I'm with the penguins this morning, and as you know, I've got a great relationship with animals, correct? We all know that at the BBC, I'm sure
you're famous for it, Justin,
yes. I'm famous for it, so...
You like bears?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yes. I had a word with Pingu and the Massive this morning here, and I said, come on, Pingu, we go back, can you make some noise for Iain Lee? We waited, yes. And then this happened. Thank you. Bear with us, Ian, bear with it. And again, son.
This is ridiculous as a fireman encouraging a squirrel out of a pond.
You enjoyed that, come on. You must
Are you sure that wasn't the fella that goes on the bus and makes that horrible smell?
That was the local penguin impersonator.
What do you do to a penguin to make... Where do you put your fingers to make a penguin make that noise?
I just look and I wink and I have a conversation. As we said there, come on, Pingu, come on, son. And then suddenly he does the noise for me. It's fantastic. But today, it is a big day. Joining me live here at Whipsnade Zoo is Kat Baldwin. Kat, you are from Whipsnade. It's a massive day. It's your annual stock take, and you have to do this by law, don't you? Is that correct?
Yep, it's something we do every January. We count up every single animal in the zoo. First of all, so we have all the up-to-date information, and also to make sure we can renew our licence.
And you've got so many animals here. How long does this take?
It should take a few days. We've got roughly 2,500 animals, so it does take a while, but hopefully this week we'll have done it all.
And you've just got hundreds of people walking around the zoo with a clipboard.
Yeah, pretty much. All the keepers got the clipboards out, ticking off the animals.
Everyone always has a great day here. What exciting arrivals did you have in 2012, which will now officially be added to your stock take?
We had a baby rhino. He was born 4 weeks ago, so he'll be added in. We had 6 cheetah cubs, 3 lynx kittens, Django the baby giraffe, and Georgina the pygmy hippo.
Now that all sounds lovely, but apparently some poor person has got to count the ants one by one. It's a bit of a job, isn't it?
Well, it would be if we did it that way, but what we do is we just count them as one colony, which makes it a lot easier than counting every single ant.
Now, here's my bag in the back here. What would happen if I sneaked a python into that bag and I let him loose today in the zoo, and then at the end of the day, you're adding this up and you're thinking, oh, it's a random python, we've got one extra. Has that ever happened? Have you had a surprise beast that's been here at the zoo that's been added up as part of your annual stock take?
We've had surprise births, but not really surprise animals that just turn up. Keepers do check them every day just to make sure they're all still around.
OK, and 2013, what are we looking forward to this year? What's going to be happening here at Whipsnade Zoo?
We've got a baby elephant on the way. That's due later in the year. That's one of our most exciting things.
And what's your favourite animal? Are you allowed to say, or is that a question that you simply can't answer live on the BBC?
I do like a lot of them, but I think if I had to pick, I'd go for the elephants.
What, even better than these penguins?
Yeah, I think...
Look at his poor face!
I know.
Come after you now.
I know.
To the elephants. OK, thank you very much indeed for your time. It's a busy day for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you go, Kat Baldwin joining us live. Kat's going to be back on drive time a bit later on with Roberto, giving us some of those figures. So it's something they do every year, and it's fantastic.
Justin,
this zoo.
I've got an idea.
Yeah,
right?
come on.
Is Kat still there?
Yes.
Can you ask her if in the spring when it gets a bit warmer?
Yeah.
Can you and I go swimming with the baby elephant? Honestly, they let people do it. I'm sure it's at Whipsnade.
Yes,
ask.
I'm sure we won't be back the next day. Iain's saying, when the weather warms up in springtime, how about that Iain and I put on our Speedos, mine are better than his, by the way, and we go swimming with the elephants. Can we do that?
Not swimming, but you can come and feed them if you want.
No, I don't want to feed them. I don't want to feed them. I want to go swimming with an elephant.
Let's go swimming. No, sorry, we can't do it.
I'm out. Justin, are you still carrying that python around with you?
Yes, he's in my bag right now. Listen to him.
Have you been drinking or something this morning? You're in a very strange, boisterous mood, young man.
When you come to a zoo, you can't help but get in that mood. It's somewhere I came as a child, and I love it just as much now.
Is it true? Do they really have ants in a zoo?
Absolutely.
Why?
You have colonies of ants here. You have them all the time. Why do you have ants here? Who's interested in ants?
They're part of our discovery centre, so we've got leafcutter ants, insects, fish.
So you have people coming to the door saying, right, where's the ants? Forget the penguins, forget the elephants, where's the ants?
Possibly. Some people do like ants.
Ant enthusiasts do exist, apparently.
There we go, Justin. An excellent report, sir. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Iain.
See you later on. Ta-ta. Justin Dilly there. Whipsnade Zoo. Ants in a zoo. I've got ants in my garden. Can I charge people to come and have a look at those? What? No one's interested in ants, are they? We've all seen ants. The only ants that are good are the really big ones. Have you seen the big ones? They're like the size of a baby's hand. Maybe not quite that big, but the really big ones are interesting. The rest, they're just ants, aren't they? Network Rail has announced this morning train services between Oxford and Bedford are set to be brought back into use. As part of the plan, the line between Bletchley and Oxford will also be reopened. It's part of a £13 billion spend on new projects between 2014 and 2019 in what David Cameron has called, quote, the biggest modernisation of the rail network since the Victorian era. Well, John Crampton is from Network Rail and joins me now. Morning, John.
Good morning.
John, is there real consumer demand for this link to be re-established?
I think absolutely there is, yes. There's been a large push over recent years for the line to be reopened, and the government has listened to those calls and have called on us to reinstate the line between Oxford and Bedford, which is a great thing for the local area.
Who's been pushing for the line to be reopened?
Well, there's the East West Rail Consortium, which is made up of local authorities and interested businesses who think that there's a need and a demand for this line to open, and I think the government has agreed with them. And now in the CP5 period, 2014 to 2019, that's looking like becoming a reality.
There have been a number of other projects announced today, including improvements to the Thameslink service. What will that mean for people using trains in the three counties?
Well, it's absolutely great news for people within three counties who will be using the Thameslink service into London. It's part of our 37 billion national investment in the railway, around 13 billion of which will benefit the three counties there. It means more trains, it means more seats, it means greater capacity, it means more options. It means you can travel into King's Cross. There's the potential to link onto the line at St Pancras and then travel down towards Gatwick and Brighton as well. So it's great news, more capacity, more seats, and I think everybody would be keen to hear that and see that happen.
Now, you mentioned big sums of money. Is the money there, or is it going to mean higher rail fares?
No, we've asked for this money to improve the railway. We don't set rail fares at Network Rail, that's a government policy, but what we are doing is cutting the cost of actually running the railway. So if we can cut the cost significantly, as we have done over the last decade, and as passenger numbers on the railway continue to use, that provides the government with an option, because there'll be that saving there, and what they do with that is for them, but we're certainly contributing to making the railway a more cost-efficient service.
John Crampton from Network Rail, thank you very much. Well, Phil Marsh is Chief Correspondent at the Railway magazine. Morning, Phil.
Good morning.
You're excited about this, aren't you?
I am, actually, because I was on the last train that ran over between Bletchley and Oxford in May 1993, near 20 years ago, and in the late 1980s I was working on a project with regional railways to try and reopen the line then. Now, the £400 million that the line is having spent on it would electrify between Bedford and Oxford as well, which brings huge benefits, as John Crampton just said. Now, I do a lot of driving over to Aylesbury and Oxford for various reasons because I can't go by train. And as we know, the A34, the A421, all these roads between Milton Keynes and Oxford and Aylesbury can be very difficult. And we have to remember that the link also includes the line to Aylesbury. And as you've got the regional centre at Milton Keynes, Bedford and Aylesbury, that's going to be a fabulous link.
So you think this will take a lot of pressure off some of those roads around that area?
The clever people that work the numbers out, I don't know who they are, but they reckon it will take over 1 million car journeys off the roads annually, and that has to be a good thing. And when you think about it, from Milton Keynes and Bletchley, you'll be able to go north, south, east and west, as you will do from Princes Risborough, at the edge of the area. And that means, for example, the local economy will benefit, as John Crampton said, and probably no more than the Preserved Railway at Chinner and Princes Risborough, who run steam trains. So you'll be able to go in 5 different directions from Princes Risborough, for example.
Phil, any idea when we'll start to see these services come into effect? How long does this take?
It is hoped that trains will run in 2016, which sounds a long time away, but it's 4 years. The line's got to be built, even though the old track bed is still there with some of the track left on it. That will be just about exactly 50 years after the line was shut to passenger services, even though it remained open through Winslow until 1993 for various reasons, mainly because of freight trains going to Calvert. The big problem Network Rail are going to have, and I have complete sympathy with them, because I used to have to deal with them, are the objectors. People don't want trees cut down. The squirrels that I just heard about, they'll be objecting because they won't have a playground on the railway line anymore. And then, of course, the HS2 NIMBYs, they will probably support the East-West Rail link, but they ought to campaign for an interchange at Calvert where the lines cross each other.
Why was the line closed down in the first place, Phil? I'm assuming it's because there was a lack of demand for it.
There was a lack of demand, and Beeching 50 years ago, almost to the month, suggested that the line needed to be shut because of economies, and the line staggered on for a couple more years, and the Bedford to Bletchley line was going to shut probably 10 years after that, but because they couldn't build the buses in time to replace the rail services, that line stayed open. So that's good news. Now, rail travel has boomed, as we all know. Traffic has boomed, so motorists and all taxpayers should support the opening of this line, because it's just a fabulous opportunity for everybody in our area. It will benefit the environment, it will benefit businesses, and it could well be cheaper than driving when you take all the costs.
Well, will it be cheaper? Because, listen, I kind of, I like buses and I like trains. I've got to get a train a couple of times this week, but looking online, tickets are quite expensive. How will rail bosses convince people to get out of their cars and onto the trains?
Well, I take issue. If you walk up and buy a ticket, they can be expensive. I went from Milton Keynes to Birmingham last week for £3.50 single.
Oh.
And next week I've got a ticket from Stafford to Euston for £3.75. So, there's plenty of websites you can go and get cheap tickets on, run by the train companies. Some of the independent websites, like Red Spotted Hanky, they will merge all the different train companies' cheap fares, so you don't need to shop around. However, even if you think of spending maybe £4,000 on an annual season ticket from Milton Keynes to Euston, what's the alternative? You drive. You've got to use the M1, the M25, and it's horrible, as you say on the traffic reports. Or if you're in the east of your area, say, Hitchin, Stevenage, you've got to go down the A1M, and it's horrible. I used to live over that way.
Phil, listen, lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, Phil Marsh. Well, there we go, you see. They seem to be in big favour of it. Facebook has been very busy this morning, and they have been in a little bit of an argument, which is great. I love it. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can go there anytime and leave messages up there for them. We all check it out. All the presenters have a little look now and then. We're talking about smelly bus lines. Well, Stuart Hopkirk has taken it one stage further. Hemel Hempstead High Street has a perma odour of stale tobacco, sweat and unwashed Philistines. Oh, Stuart, please. Very, very naughty. Lisa Hunter talks again about Urine Man. I gave him the polite name Urine Man. My son calls him... Oh, I can't say that on the air, Lisa. John Meeson says, if you listened to the horror stories bus drivers tell, you would never get on a bus again. And if you did, you certainly would think twice about sitting on that seat. Personal hygiene should be a requirement to be part of the human race, let alone a requirement to use buses. Well, you say that. There's something nice, isn't there? When you've got like a week off work, and maybe the family are away for a couple of days, and so you've got like 2 or 3 days at home on your own. There's something nice, isn't there, about not having a shower. There is. About not washing, not brushing your teeth, wearing your PJs, your Jimmy Jams for a couple of days in a row, not changing your underwear. There's something nice and comforting about that. And then popping down to the local Esso to get yourself a pint of milk. Isn't there? Is it just me? I like that. No, and sometimes there's something nice as well about, and I'm gonna, being a little bit smelly. There's something comforting about it. It's your natural, not stinky, you're not like, wee man, urine man, but just, you feel... What's that film, where the woman gets turned on by the smelly man? Fish Called Wanda. They're constantly... And there's something about that, the natural feel. Forget your Lynx, your Africa Lynx, or your I can't think of any other deodorant names. I haven't used Lynx for 25 years. But there are other ones. Forget those kind of fake smells. There's something about, smelling au naturel. Not stinky, but, just a little bit. Charlotte Wren, stinky buses. I remember when pregnant with my daughter, a smelly lady, a cat one too, you can just tell, yes you can. She sat on the seat behind the driver, so every time the door opened and there was a breeze, it stunk to high heavens, resulting in me gagging and begging the driver to stop before a bus stop to let me off. The worst one is the fried chicken. And I've been on trains and on tubes. I've been in the cinema once, and someone sat just opposite, a little bit further away from me, got some fried chicken out. That stuff stinks. You don't open fried chicken or oranges in confined spaces, okay, because those smells are invasive. Once they get on your clothes, you're screwed. And then, look, lovely, Trudy Wren and Darren Trapps are having an argument on Facebook. I'm not going to comment on it. You just go and have a look. They're arguing with each other. I love it. That's the beauty of it. You can carry on the ridiculous arguments we have on this show. You can carry them online. Facebook.com. Internet, calm down. It's just David Bowie. The only 2 good songs he's done are Changes and Dancing in the Street. Dave Prever, you haven't got a clue. I'm off. I'm back tomorrow at 6. You can listen to David Prever talk nonsense about how good David Bowie is. Ta-ta.
Monkeys. What have the monkeys ever done?
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Thank you, Ian.